What is the shadow of God? It's the authoritarian, the authority that becomes authoritarian. Archangel Gabriel. What is the shadow of the Archangel Gabriel? Gabrielle is not Gabriel. Gabrielle is the shadow. The authoritarian, torturer, sadist, killer, murderer, destroyer, jailer. That is the shadow of God. Dorian is the Boy Scout. He's the one they sent out to send a message, a warning about Gabrielle.
In Hong Kong, 3 high-profile activists arrested, and now pro-democracy protesters are canceling plans for a mass demonstration on Saturday. A hurricane headed for the southern U.S., gaining strength in the Atlantic. It could be the strongest storm to hit Florida's east coast in almost 30 years. Also ahead this hour, the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson calling on Brexit negotiators to step up the tempo on talks as he faces backlash over plans to suspend Parliament. We're live from CNN World Headquarters in Atlanta, and we want to welcome our viewers all around the world. I'm George Howell. CNN Newsroom starts now. Most prominent pro-democracy activists has been arrested. Joshua Wong was taken away early Friday morning just as the city prepares for the 13th straight weekend of protests, and he's not alone. 2 other activists have also been detained. Following this story, our Paula Hancock is live outside the police headquarters in Hong Kong. And Paula, we understand by all accounts this was a forceful arrest. What more have you learned?
Well, George, what we're hearing is from Joshua Wong's pro-democracy group itself. They said that they believed he was forced into a minivan whilst he was just heading to a train station 7:30 this morning. We don't have more details than that confirmed from the police, though. But what they have said is that he is facing certain charges, of organising, inciting and participating in an authorised assembly. Another individual from his group has also been arrested. And the third individual, this is Andy Chan. He's head of a movement which is actually banned in Hong Kong. He's calling for independence of Hong Kong from China. Now, he's no stranger to being arrested. The same with Joshua Wong. He was only released from prison just a couple of months ago for his involvement in the 2014 umbrella movement, the pro-democracy movement. So we're really seeing here a crackdown from police of the more well-known elements of these protest movements, George.
And, you know, these protests, again, supposed to be leaderless, Paula, so given the latest arrests, what impact does it really have on this movement?
Well, that's the thing. They are leaderless movements. They are organised primarily on social media. There are many different groups. There's not just one group that is pushing these protests. There are many different groups that are coming onto the streets of Hong Kong. It's a very fluid movement. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it will make any kind of difference to the protests themselves. It may make more people want to come out onto the streets to protest these more well-known figures being arrested. But certainly this was the desire of these movements, the fact that they didn't want the leaders, they didn't want to give the chance for the police to cut off the head of these movements and impact them in that way. It's also worth noting, though, George, there was going to be a very large rally for Saturday, for tomorrow. This was the Civil Human Rights Front, which has brought hundreds of thousands of people onto the streets and has been peaceful. But that has been denied by police. They have not allowed the march or the assembly because they say they can't, they're worried about civil unrest on the streets of Hong Kong. So that particular group has called for its members not to go out on the streets because they can't guarantee their safety. So what we could see tomorrow, instead of these very large numbers of peaceful protesters, we could see different elements coming onto the streets, not the families that we have been seeing in recent weeks, but certainly there is an expectation that there will be some protesting these arrests, protesting the extradition bill, protesting the lack of the Hong Kong government meeting demands that they have met on the streets instead. George?
Paul Hancock's following the story live in Hong Kong. Thank you. Here in the United States, people are keeping an eye on Hurricane Dorian. That hurricane now a Category 2 storm. Look at it there, churning in the Atlantic. Now with sustained winds of 165 kilometers per hour. The storm already the strongest storm of this Atlantic hurricane season. And the forecasts have it growing stronger, intensifying even more with winds of up to 225 kilometers per hour as it nears landfall in Florida. And across that state, people there have been racing to stores, people stocking up on gas and food trying to get ready for it. Officials encourage everyone there to have supplies that last at least 7 days. Florida is already under an emergency declaration. Our Leila Santiago is there along Florida's east coast and filed this report.
We get it for you.
Hurricane Dorian is barreling toward Florida. Expected to be a Category 4 storm, it's already causing hurricane-force issues for the Sunshine State.
We were supposed to stay here till Monday, but we had to make some sudden changes to the itinerary because of the hurricane.
As Floridians prepare to hunker down or get out, the coming storm is forcing others to stay away during the Labor Day weekend, usually a vacation season moneymaker for hotels and cruise ships.
In terms of money, how much will you lose here?
This hotel, in excess of $120,000.
Deborah Green says she's had a steady stream of cancellations at her hotel on what was to be a sold-out holiday weekend. But Florida officials say better safe than sorry.
But the time to act is now. If you haven't acted, act to make preparations. Do not wait until it's too late.
Dorian has already pummeled the British and U.S. Virgin Islands and lashed Puerto Rico with rain. But since it has moved back out into open waters, it is picking up steam and could now pack winds as high as 115 miles an hour by the time it makes landfall early Monday, prompting Floridians to take action.
Just getting ready for the hurricane.
Just getting prepared before the storm comes.
Just want to protect against what's coming, potentially.
The rush to fill up at the gas pump is underway.
Saturday, I'm going to put my shutters up. You know, the praying has already begun.
And in Daytona Beach, they're also filling up with sand and lining up at hardware stores so they can board up at home.
What you don't want is to have a situation where you can't keep your family and friends safe because you didn't take the time to prepare ahead.
Floridians are being warned to have 7 days of food, water, and medicine on hand.
Just trying to be prepared. I have, a 1-year-old at home and my daughter, and it's not the first hurricane I've been through, so.
Meantime, even NASA says it's not taking any chances either, moving its mobile launch platform back inside.
Obviously, because the mobile launcher is so tall, it will be affected by the wind.
A feat that will take at least 8 hours, using a 6 million pound vehicle to slowly roll the platform 3.5 miles to safety.
And as I talk to folks here, people are quick to say it's still a bit early, but they are keeping a close eye so that they can make educated decisions on how they will handle this. But the interesting thing is I've asked a bunch of people here, what is your biggest concern? And every single person has responded saying a direct hit. In Port Canaveral, I'm Leila Santiago, CNN.
Leila, thank you. That is the big concern. Let's bring in our meteorologist, Derek Van Dam, at the International Weather Center. And Derek, this storm headed right toward Florida.
Yeah, George, and if it does make landfall in Florida, as all computer models suggest, this would be the 3rd consecutive year where a major hurricane strikes the shoreline of Florida. Can you imagine the economic impacts that has on that state and the U.S. in general? Now, here's the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. 165 km/h sustained winds. The storm located just north of the Dominican Republic. Nothing between here and the southeastern United States, but open, warm ocean bath water to help fuel this storm. We do, however, have the northern Bahamas. We can't forget about Nassau and the surrounding areas here that will be impacted likely by a powerful, if not major, hurricane sometime by Sunday evening. But I want you to take note of what is called the forecast path of uncertainty. Look how large it is towards the end of this computer model, because this is really important information, because it is expected to slow down as it approaches the coastline of Florida. And you can see the model spread here between the two different models that we look at, both showing a landfall hurricane right along the southern portions of the Florida Peninsula. But look at the spread in the time. That means Tuesday morning for the American model, Wednesday morning for the European model. So quite a spread there, but one thing's for sure, as it slows down and approaches the U.S. East Coast, the potential to magnify the threats exists. That means a longer duration wind event, a longer duration rain event, and a longer duration coastal storm surge event as well. This high pressure really dominating our flow. Here's the various models that we continue to look at, and the water temperatures here playing this critical role. And what it will do after it reaches land, that is the big question. Will it ride parallel to the coastline of Florida? Will it move across central Florida and into southern Georgia? Will it move across the southern portions of Florida, re-emerge into the warm ocean waters of the Gulf of Mexico? All options are on the table. We're assessing all of them. The best thing that we can do now is plan for the worst, hope for the best. You can see the arrival time of tropical storm force winds potentially by Sunday morning across southeastern Florida, including Miami, West Palm Beach, into the Cape Canaveral region, and again into Saturday night for the northern Bahamas. So we have got a difficult next few days, and to make matters worse, George, it is a holiday weekend, many beachgoers flocking to that part of the country, but hopefully they've heard the warnings.
Indeed, hopefully. Derek, thank you.
Okay.
People are surely